been so damaged that we no longer recognize what is right and what is wrong? I mean, it just defies wisdom. Just a short time ago, we were having riots in the streets and people were burning down businesses. And you know what? We made excuses for that. Don't we know what is right and what is wrong? Policemen were being ambushed and killed. And you know what? We made excuses for that. It's like our society has forgotten what is right and what is wrong. Is integrity simply an old-fashioned, out-of-step way of thinking? Well, you say, well, Brother Bob, why don't you explain what integrity really is? Integrity is more than just telling the truth. Integrity is doing what you said you would do. Integrity means keeping your promises. Integrity means that your words and your actions are the same thing. In other words, you practice what you preach. Someone once said that integrity is the foundation of Christian life. So let's look at ourselves this morning and ask the question, am I living a life of integrity? Oh, I'm a pretty good person, Brother Bob. That's not the question. The question is, am I living a life of integrity? Well, what if the answer is no? Well, number one, then we'd better change our value system. Number two, we'd better decide what's important. And number three, we'd better adjust our lifestyle. Remember, it was Jesus who said this in Matthew 16:26. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? I'm afraid that we have people selling their souls today for just what the world has to offer. Number one, we need to choose the source of our values. So, what is the source of your personal value? Where are you getting them from? Because you're getting them from somewhere. Now, that's an important question because where you get your values determines how valuable they really are. Would you consider the internet to be a good place to get your values? You would be surprised by how many people do just that. That's where their values come from. Would you consider TV talk shows to be a good place to get your values? You'd be surprised by how many people listen to those and decide what's right and what's wrong based on those things. If you're an average American, you will spend 1,000 hours in a year watching television. That's a lot of time. I watch a lot of television when I get home in the evening, and I wonder, would I spend 1,000 hours watching TV? Average American does. And that means that by the time you're 65 years old, you will have spent 15 years of your life watching television. In contrast, if you go to church every Sunday of your life for 65 years, you will have spent 8 months receiving spiritual teaching. 8 months compared to 15 years. It's a big difference, isn't it? Which one of those is having the biggest influence in your life? As a nation, our definition of what morality is and what decency is and what integrity is shaped by what we see on the TV set. I remember when I was growing up, I went to an independent Baptist church, and things were pretty legalistic, and it became a real popular thing for a while for preachers to come in and say, nobody should have TV sets in their house. And so people would take their nice new color television set and set it gingerly out on the curb for the garbage man to pick up because they decided we shouldn't have TVs in our house. But you know, the truth is it wasn't really a conviction in their heart. They were just doing it because somebody told them that they shouldn't. And I remember how I kind of thought that was a little ridiculous. But boy, I sure understand where they were coming from now. Because look at the effect that television has had. And I look at some of the young faces and I think, you know, television wasn't the same for us when I was a kid, and this is, you know, back in the olden times. There were 3 stations in Houston, 3 stations, and most everybody watched it in black and white because That's what the rich people had color televisions, you know what I mean? But most people just watched in black and white, and you couldn't tune them in very well. You had the rabbit ears that you set on top, and you adjusted those things. And sometimes if you could get the picture good, the sound wasn't quite right. Anyway, it was a big deal. But man, we worked at it. We worked hard at it, watching TV. But like I said, I understand where those people came from who said we'd just be better off without TV, because our values are shaped oftentimes by what we see on the TV set. 1 John 2:15-16 says this: "Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world," and pay close attention, "the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride of life is not from the Father, but is from this world." The world's value system has always remained the same. This verse tells us that there are three basic values that are constantly being promoted to us. The first one is pleasure. John calls it the desires of the flesh. And you and I both know it. Our whole culture is all about pleasure. Do you realize that the number one industry in the United States is entertainment? We spend billions of dollars every year just trying to entertain ourselves. We go to movies, sporting events, people go to clubs, they plan and take elaborate vacations, they go to parties, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with any of those things except maybe the clubs. But anyway, it's not wrong to have pleasure, but the search for pleasure is what's wrong. When it becomes our number one priority. The second world value is possessions. John calls it the desires of the eyes. And our culture is obsessed with buying things, getting more and more things, everything that looks good to us. And we love to show off our possessions, don't we? Hey, did you see my new car? Hey, check out my house. I think it's bigger than yours. We like to show off our clothing and our jewelry. We love to show off those things because they say to the world that we're somebody important, that we're somebody who's making it in life. And many people are willing to do whatever it takes to get money so that they can get things. In 1991, Americans were asking, 1991 was a while back, but they were asked, what are you willing to do for $10 million? 2/3 of the Americans polled would agree to at least one, and many agreed to several of these following things. Number one, they would abandon their entire family, 25% said, for $10 million. Another 25% said they would abandon their church and their faith for $10 million. 23% said they'd become prostitutes for a week or more. 16% said they'd give up their American citizenship. I'm telling you, it costs about that much to get an American citizenship these days, so that's kind of never mind.